Talking real estate with Gabriela Lira. She's a real estate broker with Compass Realty and just kind of going over the marketplace. And look, I don't know. I'm going to share one. You can call in if you want to share an experience where you've looked at property or whatever. I want to ask you, okay, first of all, I live in Wilson County, a road called Tater Peeler Road. It is a cool road, all right? And we live down a ways, but there was a piece of property that went on sale. There were two lots side by side, the same family. They split it. One has a small house on it. The other one next to it was not perked, but could eventually be. Probably total acreage 3 acres or so, right on the road.
Okay.
And a cute little house. And they did auction. And we were thinking, well, we'll go. But, we had people say, oh, yeah, that house with the property because of your road and all this, it's going to go for, minimum probably $300,000-$400,000, whatever. Well, we went to the auction that morning because it's just down the road from us a little ways, maybe a mile. And a small crowd came out on a rainy day, and the property, an acre and a half, really nice on this road with that house, sold for $130,000. And the lot next to it sold for about $15,000. So the person who bought them both got the whole kit and caboodle for like about $150-something thousand.
Sure.
And we were stunned. And I was thinking to myself, and we were even out there with some people that knew kind of about the land. They just looked at me and they're like, there has to be something wrong that we don't know about this. Now, to this day, I don't know. This was about a month ago.
Could be in the flood zone.
No. It's been, the house has been there forever, the one that's next to it. How does something like that happen in this marketplace? Now, I know interest rates, I don't think they did a real good job of advertising. You could even tell the auctioneers were kind of like, now this is a really good deal. I don't, do people realize it? And the family was just sitting back there. I think they wanted to sell it quick and they didn't do any advertising. We didn't line it up with the banker. Heck, I would have bid on that.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, the family should have set a floor and said, we will not sell it if we don't hit X amount, 200,000 or whatever that is. But
if they're that desperate and they're just going to sell it for whatever.
If you just want to offload it, then you're going to take whatever you can get. But here's the thing. There are people who dedicate themselves to go to these auctions.
Right.
They're investors, they're builders, they're developers, and this is how they find
so this was
teardowns and land.
Did they miss it, or is there something maybe which would make me feel better that I didn't know about this land that kept them away? Is it possible that there just wasn't the advertisement about it? Maybe they just put up a few signs.
Definitely.
And these investors, they're on top of it. Didn't know about it.
Yeah,
because
totally
it was a steal for that amount of money. It was a steal. Trust me, if you saw the area, you'd go, that can't be right. Our jaws dropped.
Totally possible.
Okay, so I share that to say that if you're in the right place at the right time, you look around, you never know. Don't assume, oh, there's no way I'm going to be able to afford that because
especially now, there are more opportunities than ever.
Okay, so I was telling you there's another house up for sale that's going up this week. It's an online auction. There was visitation on it. It's in Hermitage, about a 1,200 square foot house on Old Lebanon Dirt Road. And I don't know if it's maybe an acre, less than an acre in the house. What do you think about something like that? And selling it online, it's an online auction. What's your take on how that works?
Sellers are getting creative.
Okay.
Right?
You think you're going to get more money that way?
They are thinking they're going to get more money that way for whatever reason. Maybe their counsel, their agent has convinced them that this is a good way to go. Maybe they're out of towners and they want to do everything electronically. But for me, I believe the tried and true way of getting the most eyes on it is putting it on the MLS, listing it for sale, having it syndicated to all these other real estate sites to try and target your buyer and try and reach your buyer in the most amount of places.
And then you're talking about having showings?
Yeah.
Okay, so meaning
you could even do, if they don't want to do days of showings, you can just say on this day from this time to this time we will host it open. So if you want to see it, you need to come during this time.
Right.
And people will.
And I've always thought that would be the best way to get them. You see more doing auctions. Why auctions? Now, this is an online auction. The other one I was telling you about in Wilson County was an in-person auction. Have you seen where sometimes auctions, is that just a quicker way, easier way, but you don't get as much money for it?
I'm not seeing as many auctions as you're seeing, but people opt for the auction way because it is easier, it is faster, it is a one-day deal usually, and there's a psychology behind it. So sometimes you start bidding against someone else and you get into it and you might overbid without realizing it.
It's interesting, when you said one-day deal, had we bid that day, you bid, you win it, you have to pay whatever it is at the spot right there, you're 10, 15%, but then that money comes in, and it's boom, done, right there, as is, there, go. It's a little different than if you're going through a realtor and you're going with a showing where you make an offer and you go back and forth.
Yeah, and you're getting finance and you're doing inspections and it has to get appraised.
Yeah, okay. It's just, like you said, people are getting creative that way.
Yeah.
Different ways, for each their own. Let's go to David. David, good morning. Hi, David.
How you doing?
Hey, what's on your mind?
Well, I was calling. I'm a little bit of an older gentleman, and I was just going to tell you that I was echoing what you had seen in that in '82 at the end of the Carter malaise, just as they were starting in the Reagan administration. FHA was 16 and a quarter with a 2-point buy down. And we went to an absolute auction like you were talking about.
Yep.
And we bought a 5-year-old home that was 1,900 square feet and 42 acres in the Spring Hill area in Maury County for $56,000. And that was an excellent buy, but the interest rates were just crazy. And what I was going to tell you is what your agent was telling you, is that after a period of time, 3 to 4 years, we refinanced it at like 8%, which was, half of what it was at that time, and then you could refinance it again in a couple more years. So we got to get that bargain, and we just had to have the interest rates for maybe a period of 2 to 3 years.
Right.
And then obviously in Spring Hill, I bought pre-Saturn, so the price of the property value shot through the roof in 10 years that I tripled my money.
Oh.
What a great investment.
That's awesome. And you hit it on the head. Refinancing, what's your rule of thumb? If you're going to refinance, how much, if it's more than a point, is it worth doing? Because you always have to replay closing costs, right? So there's some expense with refinancing. What do you recommend in refinancing?
Well, we would have to ask a mortgage broker that question so they could give us the exact number. But what I always say is you marry the house and you date the rate. Because rates won't always be where they are now. So, 3 to 5 years, you can refinance, probably less than that. So the experts that I've been chatting with lately tell me that, bad times don't last. So they're thinking that we're in this period of time, maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years. So, year 2, you're probably going to be able to refinance and get a lower rate. And you still have the house that you wanted.
You're exactly right. I think that was a great call from David, because I do remember when it was up higher before we really came into this time period where you said the lowest you saw was a little bit below 3%. And I remember I had a friend, and they just didn't pay attention to it. I said, what's your interest rate? This was that when it was around 4%. And they go, well, I think I'm paying 9%. And I just said, look, and I've heard that if you can bring your interest rate down by more than a point, it's worth doing. You're going to save yourself money. When she went ahead and did this, she thanked me the next day. It meant an extra $300 in her pocket every month. I mean, it was huge.
That adds up.
And yet it didn't change how much she owed on the house down the road. And she also had the option, if she wanted to, refinance, shorten the loan, and pay it off sooner. You can do it one way or 2 ways.
That's a car payment, $300 a month.
Oh, it was huge. And she didn't even realize it. It had gone on for several months. I said, go refinance. You're going to save yourself a ton of money.
That's your utility bill for the month.
So even if what you're saying is, if there's a house right now that you're paying maybe 7% on, go ahead and buy it. And the odds are it's going to come down some. Maybe it gets down to 5 or 4% in a few months. Or a couple of years, you could refinance.
Yes.
And save yourself that money.
Yes.
Yeah, marry yourself to the house, not the interest rate.
Right. Date the interest rate.
Take a break. More phone calls, more of our conversation about real estate, learning stuff with Gabby right after this. Stay with us.